There is already quite a few horror movies that have been announced for 2025, but there is also a ton on my radar that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. I personally love finding movies that I haven't heard anybody else talk about and sharing them and putting the word out there, because you never know who these movies are going to appeal to, and simply somebody could have just missed that this movie existed in the first place. I have things on this list coming out as soon as early March, all the way up to October, and then there are a bunch of things that I know are coming out within 2025, but just don't have an estimated release date yet. So hopefully this list will put a few more things on your radar. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, so if that sounds like something you might be interested in, maybe hit that subscribe button and join the Horde, or maybe if you're feeling extra generous, maybe even like the video. I have my phone here with all the important information, so let's crack onto it, starting in release date order, starting from March to October, and then everything else after that. So without further ado, here are 12 upcoming horror movies coming out this year that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. Bloat is an upcoming found footage movie. It has a poster, a trailer, and an estimated release date of March the 7th for limited screenings in cinemas and on streaming services. The synopsis for this one is: a military officer is stationed in Turkey while his wife is vacationing in Japan with their children. During their stay, their youngest son almost drowns in a lake. After a near-death drowning accident, the family is horrified to discover that he has become possessed by a legendary demon from the depths of the lake. As the family races against time to save the boy's soul, the monster seeks to destroy everyone in its path. I am a big fan of Japanese mythology and folklore, and when I saw the poster for this one, I immediately thought, this has to be a kappa. If you don't know what a kappa is, they are a water-dwelling yokai that is a bit like a humanoid frog lizard thing, is the best way I can describe it. And to keep it happy, you feed it cucumbers. But I am happy for this movie to try and prove me wrong and not go for the obvious route that it seems to have gone with on its poster. Found footage is also very hit or miss me, but I'm hoping, because I do have the attachment to Japanese folklore and mythology, that this one is gonna go in its favour. If you did miss when this one becomes available, if you're watching this at the time this video goes live, it literally comes out just next week. The Rule of Jenny Penn is a psychological horror thriller. It currently has a poster, a trailer, and an estimated release date of either March 14th or March 30th, depending where you are in the world, and it will be available to stream on Shudder. The synopsis for this one is: confined to a secluded rest home and trapped within his stroke-ridden body, a former judge must stop an elderly psychopath who employs a puppet to abuse the home's residents with deadly consequences. I discovered this one when I accidentally stumbled across its creepy looking poster when I was wandering through IMDb, and this one has actually been doing quite well on the independent film circuit. It actually won the award for Best Director and Best Actor, and it happens to star Jeffrey Rush in this. If you don't know who Jeffrey Rush is, for anybody who is around my age, he's Barbossa in Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know whether he is playing the hero or the villain in this, and I don't really care, because the other person in this, and I apologise, I always butcher this man's surname, is John Lithgow, aka Lord Farquaad from Shrek. Like, two people who are both amazing at playing heroes and villains, so whoever's playing the bad guy and whoever's playing the good guy, don't really care, it's not going to be a bad movie. Hell of a Summer is a horror comedy. It currently has a poster, a trailer, and an estimate release date of April 18th. Its synopsis reads: camp counselor Jason thinks his biggest problem is feeling out of touch with his teenage co-workers. What he doesn't know is that mysterious masked killer is lurking on the campgrounds, brutally picking off the victims one by one. This one was actually made back in 2023, but it only received its distribution rights back in August of 2024. It has been a while since there was a good old summer camp slasher kind of movie. The last one that I can think of was Final Girls back in 2015, so I'm hoping that this might be a new fun addition into the world of camp slasher horror comedies. Now, I'm a big fan of horror that is just fun, it doesn't take itself too seriously, it is just there, like, for good time's sake. And that seems to be the actual definition of Hell of a Summer if you watch its trailer. Crawlers is a zombie movie. It currently has a poster but no trailer and an estimated release date of June 10th. Its synopsis reads, "In the year 2030, a zombie pandemic of biblical proportions decimates the United States population. American survivors rush to Mexico, to El Santuario del Sur, the Southern Sanctuary, a rocky plateau believed to be zombie-free." This one is currently listed as in pre-production over on IMDb, but all I can say is the release date for this one certainly piqued my attention because it is ballsy as all hell to release a zombie movie just 10 days before the release of 28 years later. That's right, 2 zombie movies coming out that close together, and I want to see what Crawlers is going to try and do to set itself apart from 28 years later, because this year is looking to be incredibly zombie heavy. Not only are we getting 28 years later, we are also getting the sequel to Return of the Dead coming out in December, and there are multiple spin-offs coming out from within the Walking Dead franchise. And this isn't the only zombie movie that you're going to see on this list from me, because let's just say, up and coming is the daughter of zombie royalty. Body Farm is potentially a supernatural horror. It currently has a poster but no trailer and an estimated release date of October the 4th. Its synopsis reads, "A forensic pathology student volunteering alone at a body farm is horrified to discover the corpses have begun to change position or even disappear altogether." If you've ever watched CSI, you may already be familiar with the Body Farm. The Body Farm is an actual research facility that was founded back in 1981 by William Bass at the University of Tennessee. Its entire purpose is to study the decomposition of humans and animals. All the bodies at the facilities are donated to medical science, where they are then placed outside and exposed to the elements so that research can be conducted on them. This research is then used in medical, legal, and educational purposes. In the last 40 years, this has now been expanded to 8 facilities throughout the United States. Now, as somebody whose dream job growing up was to be a forensic pathologist, but one rotten science teacher in high school ruined all of this, of course this one was going to be on my radar. I mean, forensic science and me just go hand in hand. We're PB&J. We Harvest is a medical horror thriller. There is currently a poster but no trailer for this one, but an estimated release date of October the 10th. The synopsis for this one reads, "A young surgeon takes a job in corrupt Las Vegas. Facing personal tragedy, he's tempted by co-workers harvesting criminal organs, believing the cause righteous until realizing his moral compromise." This is one of 2 medical movies on this list, and there really isn't that much out there to tell you about this movie just yet, besides the synopsis. But the synopsis is giving me kind of American Mary vibes, but instead of body modification, it's organ harvesting. It also happens to be set in one of my favourite locations in the world, which is Las Vegas. I have never been, but it's on my bucket list. It's one of the very few places, and you can thank CSI for that. And while it is only listed as being in pre-production over on IMDb, the fact that it has an estimated release date does make me more optimistic that it is actually going to be released around the release date that it is expected to. The Boy from Below is potentially a supernatural slasher movie. There is a poster but no trailer for this one, and the estimate release date for it is just October in general. The synopsis reads, "A horror movie nerd must put her IQ to the test in order to survive after she finds herself targeted by a creepy killer in a creepy truck on Halloween." This one was actually funded over on IndieGogo, so I will leave the completed campaign for this one down in my description bar, because obviously they are going to be able to sell this movie to you far better than I can. But this falls into the category of every year around Halloween, you get some kind of new slasher movie, and it's something that we've just come to expect. And this feels like it is trying to go for that particular demographic, which is never a bad thing because it's already giving me, it's set on Halloween, it's giving me spooky vibes, it's going to be a slasher movie. So even if this is just a kind of like middle of the road slasher movie, I'm excited to see what they've done, considering, like I said, this is a fully crowdfunded project. The Iron Lung is a science-based horror. It is based on the video game of the same name that was released back in 2022. There is currently a poster, a trailer, but no estimate release beyond 2025 at the moment for this one. Its synopsis reads, Set in a post-apocalyptic future where an event known as the Quiet Rapture caused all known stars and habitable planets in the universe to disappear, a convict is sent to search an ocean of blood discovered on a desolate moon, using a small submarine nicknamed the Iron Lung. There was quite a lot of hype when this one was originally announced back in 2023, partly because it is starring Markiplier, who I think if you are on YouTube, you've probably heard of Markiplier, and he is also directing and producing this movie. But since the estimated release date of 2024 never happened, it has just kind of disappeared off everybody's radars, and I think people have forgotten that this movie is still somewhere on the horizon. There hasn't actually been an update for this one since around August of last year when they were trying to get the distribution rights for this, so hopefully all is going to go well and we eventually get this one released in 2025. But the big reason that this one is on my radar is because up until now, the Evil Dead franchise currently holds the record for most blood used in a movie with 50,000 US gallons of fake blood. But when the Iron Lung comes out, it is actually going to break the record held by Evil Dead. So I can't wait to see how much blood is in this movie, especially when you know that Markiplier actually got sent to the hospital because of how much of the stuff he got in his eyes. The Cigarette is a body horror. There is currently a poster, a trailer, but no estimate release beyond 2025 for this one. The synopsis reads, when an unsuspecting Jasmine is dumped by her boyfriend and dismissed by her parents, she gets a job selling cigarettes on the streets of New York. Unbeknownst to Jasmine, the cigarettes cause madness, chaos, and murders in Manhattan. Once the murders begin to pile up, Jasmine has to claim her innocence while solving the riddle of the laced cigarettes. I've been following this one since around mid-2024, and as last year proved, there is certainly a call for some good old squishy gooey body horror, as proven thanks to The Substance and the remake/sequel of Street Trash. I love weird, ooey gooey squishy body horror, and that is what I'm hoping that I get from The Cigarette, because this is also listed as a potential horror comedy on IMDb, and I find when it comes to body horror comedies tend to just push that a little bit further and are not afraid to go weird and wacky and out of the box with what they decide to put out. The Third Parent, which I have also seen called Tommy Taffy online, is a sci-fi horror. There is currently only the logo available for this one, so not even a full poster yet. There is no trailer and no estimate release beyond 2025. The synopsis for this one reads, amid the 4th of July celebrations, a disturbing figure named Tommy Taffy emerges, disguising himself as a human to infiltrate a suburban neighborhood and impose authoritarian rule over an unsuspecting family. This one is actually based on the book The Third Parent by Elias Witherow, who also wrote the creepypasta for this one known as Tommy Taffy. There are so many potential trigger warnings for this one if you do intend on reading the original source material. We're talking essay on both adults and minors within this, which may raise a few questions as to why I'm planning on watching this one of all things. Like, if you've seen what Tommy Taffy looks like, this guy is nightmare fuel, and I am also no stranger to reading extreme horror novellas, so I am interested to see how we're going to take something that is considered on the extreme side of horror literature and how it's going to be adapted for film, because there is only so much of this that you are going to be able to actually put in the movie. Otherwise, you're not going to get a rating for it. Queens of the Dead is a zombie horror comedy. This one currently has a poster, but no trailer at the moment, but it is listed as being in post-production, so I am expecting a release date for this one sooner rather than later, and I will be keeping an eye out for the trailer for this one. The synopsis reads, drag queens and club kids battle zombies craving brains during a zombie outbreak at their drag show in Brooklyn, putting personal conflicts aside to utilize their distinct abilities against the undead threat. I am expecting a lot from this movie, and that is because this happens to be the feature debut of Tina Romero, aka the daughter of George A. Romero. This is the horror royalty that I was talking about. The cast for this one also makes me incredibly excited. It stars Nina West, who is one of my favourite drag queens of all time. Margaret Cho and Cheyenne Jackson are also in this, but most importantly, if you know anything about me, it also happens to star Katie O'Brien, who was in Love Lies Bleeding playing the bodybuilder in it, and I want nothing more than buff ladies killing zombies. Like, it's my dream film. They're giving me zombies, queer characters, drag queen, like, buff ladies. It's all I want in a movie, and it is possibly my most anticipated movie of the entire year so far. Placid Park is a cosmic horror thriller. This one currently has a poster, no trailer, and an estimated release date of just 2025 in general, but this is another one that is currently listed as being in post-production over on IMDb. Its synopsis reads, 7 friends arrive at a dense forested state park, Placid Park. They plan on camping, enjoying nature hikes and caves, all while partaking in some psychedelic adventures. While coming up on their endeavours, a Wendigo savagely kills one of their own, sending them on the worst night and trip of their lives. This is another one that was funded over on IndieGogo, so I will leave the link to its completed campaign down in the description bar because they can sell this to you far better than I can. But when I was reading through the information on there, they described this as a cosmic H.P. Lovecraft inspired adventure with a Wendigo. And what could possibly be more interesting than a Wendigo story than a cosmic Wendigo story? Like, this is, like, I love cryptids, but I really want to see what direction they are going to take the story of the Wendigo if they're going to make it H.P. Lovecraft. Like, is it going to have tentacles? Like, how weird are we going to make this? So there you have it, the 12 up-and-coming horror movies that were on my radar that hopefully are now on your radar as well. And fingers crossed I was able to name something that you can now keep an eye out for the rest of the year. If you would like to know where else you can find me, I am also over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, where I talk about every single horror movie that I watch, and not just the ones that I talk about here on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, I will be back on Friday with a solo movie review, and this time it is one of the movies that I wanted to prioritise watching right here on my channel in the month of March. So I'm watching The Other Lamb from 2019 because I now need to know what the hell is going on with the all-female cult. So until next time, bye.